Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing we always do in this meeting is pledge of allegiance. Those of you who can stand and join us, please do. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Christy, could you help us with the roll call, please? Present.
Andrea Sampson.
Here.
Jen Thompson.
Here. So we have form, and Pat will be joining us soon, I'm assuming. Okay, do we have any changes, or would anybody like to approve the agenda as it is written? Yes, please.
Okay, I move to approve the agenda as written.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a second? Second. First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Steve, do you have any words or presentations?
We do not.
Okay, that leads us to public comment, limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So please stand up, state your name and your address, please, if you could. And we'll have Christy start that process, and anybody online who would like to speak as well. Any public comment? Okay,
If
Christy.
anybody wants to make public comment, please just go ahead and stand up. I didn't do a sign up sheet today.
Thank you. Christy, is there anybody online?
If anybody online would like to make public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. I do not show anybody.
Okay, thank you. Cruising right along, that leads us to the consent agenda. We have quite a bit on the consent agenda. Majority of these are catching up with minutes from the past several meetings. So I don't know if each board member's had a chance to look at those specifics. We're gonna wait. You're so embarrassed, then you can sit down and that.
Well, if my neighbor hadn't rudely lost her mom and stopped me to talk, I'd have been here.
I'm sorry to hear that. So we are currently on the consent agenda.
Fair enough.
Thank you. That being said, we can accept the motion to approve all 11 items on the consent agenda. If you have some questions.
1 through 11.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good, that passes. Christy, thanks for simplifying that for me. Appreciate that. Now it leads us to the regular agenda. Item number 12, receive an update from the Consolidated Loveland Fire Rural District Volunteer Firefighters Pension Fund, and that would be from President Klaas. Chris, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So my purpose here is just to provide a late year-end report of 2025 for a pension situation. And that's based on we've been receiving the information, the final numbers from FPPA until the end of March. So with that, I'm the chairperson. Doug Blackhammer is the vice chair. The other directors are Eric Blake, Brad Hammonds, Ken Stauffer, Kirk Wilson, and you just reelected Mark Miller for another term for him. So thank you for doing that. There are currently 43 firefighter recipients, and their benefit is based on the number of years of service. The pension program is a pro rata from 10 years to 20 years of service. So that equates to $400 to $800 a month. The average benefit is about $600 a month. We also have a spousal benefit. There's 16 spouses receiving a benefit, which is 50% of what the firefighters' benefit is. Their benefits range from $200 to $400, and their average benefit is $344 a month. The performance of our fund last year with FPPA The beginning balance was $2,054,162, and we ended the year at $2,143,118. And that was made possible by the contributions from the authority board, the state contribution, and we had good earnings last year. Last year, the performance was 13.34%. The 3-year average for FPPA is 11.10%, and the 5-year average is 7.8%. When I was here last fall and gave an update at the end of our actuary study, we indicated that we had a couple questions, concerns with that study. Andrea Smith worked with FPPA, and I think that we've resolved those questions that we had, and some of it was just miscommunication from them to us, but we haven't resolved. But as a result of that actuary study, the study recommends that we increase our contribution by $1,540. And that's due to, they've changed the rate of return in the study for us from a 7% return to a 6% return. And that's based on us being a senior fund, closed fund. So that's why they reduced our assumption of rate of return to 6%. The plan right now, and there was actually a motion that we were talking about last fall about adding that to the budget. And after we tabled it, I think in talking with Andrea, we'll just put that into the budget line item budget request for this year. So I don't believe it really requires a formal action by you other than adopting the budget or that line item within the budget. So that's all I have.
So that $1,500, that we can put that on the budget. You don't need anything today at all, Chris?
I don't believe so. So our budget request in the past has been $101,700. So we're going to increase that by $1,540. So it'll still be around 103,000 is what we'll be asking for in the 2027 budget.
Very good.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Have a good
Appreciate it.
meeting. Thank you.
Continue on to item 13, continued discussion of 2027 LFRA budget priorities. And I'm assuming that you have the floor on this one, Chief?
Well, Andrea will begin the process.
Okay, thanks, Andrea.
So we have some slides. Chief Ward will put up for us.
Hopefully.
While he looks for that, this is the continuation of the discussion from the February meeting where we presented what we saw as the priorities for the organization based on our 5 Rs. And the board asked us to go sign dollar amounts to those priorities. So the slides will look pretty familiar. We're using the same slides, just adding dollar amounts to them. So next slide, please. So what we talked about before, one of the concerns is shift leadership, the span of control that the battalion chiefs on shift are dealing with is 11 direct reports, which is a lot. They don't have the time to spend with their crews that they need. So we looked at what it would take to add another battalion. We need 3 battalion chiefs, including salary, additional computer equipment, a vehicle for the additional battalion, and we would need to do some construction of offices. This was looked at a few years ago, and so we kind of basing the numbers on what we had for construction a few years ago and increasing it a little bit. Looks like that would be $1.13 million for that, and that is the 2027 amount.
going forward, of course, we wouldn't have to do the construction in the vehicle everywhere. Next slide, please. So we talked before about the overtime needs, how we have consistently had higher overtime actuals than we have had budgeted because of the needs that we had, the adjustments that we have made to try to minimize that, but then that has an effect on the amount of training and things like that. So what we did is we looked at the gap and compared our 3 years of history, and we arrived at an amount of an additional $100,000 for overtime in 2027 is what we would be seeking. We also identified the captains, captains on shift, handling their programs. The number one need that we are seeing is IT support because if you recall, Captain Schutz was here before and talked about the challenges that he faces, partly because it's the shift schedule, partly because of his other obligations. So what we think would be the most helpful at this point would be a CAD administrator, and he would help with MDTs. And then we have been talking to IT and dispatch. They are looking at similar positions, and the cost is estimated to be about $140,000 per year for that position. Then the other thing that we mentioned in February was looking at changes we could make to the wildfire module to be able to deal with changes in when we might be able to cut. What we've had a couple of years now of having people for up to 6 months at a time. The challenges with that is we have to find new people every year because they move on. So what we looked at is if we converted the 4 seasonal positions to 2 full-time benefited positions, that would allow us greater cutting window if there's an issue with the beetles and things like that, and it actually would be about the same cost. So I don't have that listed on the summary slide because we're looking at it as it's cost neutral. Next slide, please. So this is a big one, the apparatus replacement. Our funding has been cut 3 times in the last 6 years. The NFPA standards would be a minimum of 15 years frontline, 25 years to be replaced. Before our funding cuts, we had 10 to 12 years frontline service and 5 to 7 in reserve. The maintenance starts costing a lot more at 10 years. For 2026, we have nothing going into the apparatus replacement fund. I looked at what we're behind on replacing, what we will need to be buying in future years, and also assigning and breaking down what's coming up and the dollar amount each year for apparatus through the next, I believe I did 15 years. The annual contribution should be $4 million. What is up for replacement in 2027 is really close to that $4 million mark. Chief Ward can speak to it more detailed, but the absolute minimum of what we need to replace in 2027 is about 1.35 million. Those are apparatus that we're behind on replacement for it. We very much need to, especially because of the lead time. Also, we talked about before that LFRA now owns stations and facilities, and we do not have any capital replacement fund mechanism in place. And as those facilities start to age, we're going to see where we need to do repairs, concrete repairs, HVAC. We estimate $100,000 a year as a starter to that fund. It's not. That will need to be looked at again as time goes by, but as a start for things that we can reasonably expect to happen in the next few years, we recommend starting there. And then Fire Station 3, we're not putting anything in the budget request for this, but we just want to keep that on the radar as a station that is needing to be replaced before the sales tax. Food tax was rescinded. This was a priority for the city. I understand the funding isn't there, but we don't want to forget about it. Next slide. So we talked before about CAD services, and dispatch is looking at adding people for this. Our discussions with them are continuing to understand exactly what they need and exactly how much money they will need from LFRA. We have not included that in the summary page either, simply because we need to get more information. We will need to come back to the board with that. The OEM position, does anybody want to speak to that? Or basically there's not a request right now for that. Discussions are continuing with that too. Next slide. So finally, the fifth R, we talked before about our compensation, that we have fallen to the bottom of our comparables. So Andrea Wright looked at what would be needed as an estimate. This is of course a moving target, but we would to be at the 50th percentile, or our goal has been the 70th percentile. And the total impact on the budget for that, including other costs that go up, such as taxes and retirement contributions, those kinds of things, would be $2.6 million. If instead we decided to just aim for the 50th percentile, it would be about $300,000 less. We also in February talked about the FPPA death and disability contribution that is required, and that all of our comparable departments pay at least 50% of that. All but one pay 100%, and we pay nothing. We have the firefighters do that out of their own paychecks, which means that our 0 percentile is even lower. So to pay 100% of that for 2027 would take about $650,000. We also would like to keep our percentage contributions with the medical insurance as they are, and that basically in the $2.6 million we are. It's a guesstimate because we don't have our rates yet for next year, but that in keeping those percentages the same is included in the $2.6 million estimate. Okay. And we talked also about accreditation that we will need to submit in early 2028. So the work for that we need to do in 2027. And we have identified that probably a consultant is our best option there. We don't have anybody on staff that can do that full time. And then a consultant to help us with that process is estimated to be about $60,000. So all of that gets us to the summary page. Now in your handouts, you have this slide, and I'm going to just go through a few things on this slide and then we'll move. Director Thompson asked that we rearrange the items because these are in the order that I just presented them. Which makes it a little hard to find what is maybe your higher priorities. But I wanted to keep the slide in here to talk about a few things that are not included on the previous slides, but that we need to understand for the budget. Last year, the board approved 2 radio lease purchases. We need to have these are things you already know about, but we need the money for that in addition to our 2026 starting point. So that's that 730,000. We also are facing our workforce compensation premiums have gone up $200,000. And so we're going to need that in addition to our 2026 baseline. And then two more things, the program essentials and the spectrometer. These are items that were identified in the budget presentations with the program managers. Some of these items are things that we have over the last several years, as we've been trying to get by on a reduced budget, things that we have postponed. And at some point we need to have them. We can't keep postponing them. None of these are very high dollar amounts on their own, but altogether they come to about $140,000. Items like dive equipment in order to standardize with our partners, and supplies for programs and things. And then I called out the spectrometer separately, simply because it is also in that group of items needed for programs. We have postponed purchasing this for a very long time, simply because it is expensive. It's $50,000 for a tool, but it is standard equipment for hazmat teams, and we do not have one. It is our hazmat team, when they go on a scene, they have a very old, outdated testing kit to try to identify what substance they're dealing with. The spectrometer would allow them faster and more accurate identification of that to keep them safe. So I called that out separately. Next slide, please. So this slide has all of the things that were on the previous slide. It's just in a different order from most expensive to least expensive. Just because that's easier, I think, to see. So, questions? Yes.
Jim, go ahead.
I have a number of them, but I'll do a couple of them. I'll pause and let it go. First on the 27 million, the 27, 435, 468. I still would like to go through that at some point in time. The kind of that base, and not always just look at the ads. That there could be things in there that we need to talk about that we're doing now that could be done differently or otherwise. So I think partly Director Sampson brought it up as well when she first came on, was really what we try to do on our side at the city. We go through every single line item of the budget, and not to say, but when we did that, we found, this first time we did it was last year, we found a number of items that no longer should have been in the budget, or should have been changed or addressed, and so it allowed us a couple million savings, much larger budget, but still it freed up a few things when we went through. So
I have gone through the budget by line item, looking at the actual spend and things.
and probably with finance staff on the city side, it'd be good to do. The other point I wanted to make is that this year is the year that the city, because the district picked up those 13 positions and funded them. That's $1.6 million that instantly the city has to come up with to pay that 80% of that, of those 13 individuals that were hired 3 years ago. So we're going to 4. So right off the bat, we have to come up with that $1.6 million to make up that difference, unless we have a discussion about that at some point. The request here is what, 30% increase in the budget, and realizing that we used to have money in the apparatus fund, but it was spent on other things over the last few years probably, and it got depleted. There was money in there, is my understanding from previous discussion, and now we pretty much don't have any money in there, and so that's why we have to catch up.
So just to be clear, we have not spent money out of the apparatus fund for things other than apparatus. We just have not been replenishing it.
So we pretty much just quit putting the money in, and that's why we went from the 10 to 15 year and for the front line, and then replacement extended that out. Okay. I wasn't here for that part, other than just now knowing that we have to come up with that additional amount. The change I asked to be made on the list, I wanted to move compensation for the employees to the top. To me, that's a given. And I know we got into that discussion last year, which wasn't enjoyable, because that should always be at the top of the list in my mind. Unless you're gonna cut staff, but you gotta take care of your people, right? So for me, that's number one, there's no question. So On my side, so far, from a city's perspective, I'm already up to 4.2 million without touching apparatus or anything else. Well, not quite 4.2, so it would only be 80% of that. The OEM discussion we had, the Office of Emergency Management and potentially having the city take that over and put it into the city function, which would be civilian, freeing up the BC that's currently in the fire department. So that is some discussion we need to have, but that would be the city then picking up that responsibility. Many other cities around us do that. It's a common thread. Normally it's a civilian position and not that of a fire position. So we'll have those discussions separately. I know there's nothing on the page of what that looks like, because we would be absorbing 100% of that from the city's perspective, if in fact we moved in that direction. So I'm just adding up my numbers. I haven't got to apparatus or anything else yet. I guess on the question side is the IT and the network administrator. I know historically we've had kind of for the lower hanging fruit stuff, individuals on fire staff doing some of that. So I'm not against that. I think it's a good lane to put us in, but I want to have more discussion on that and what is exactly needed and why, and does it free up the time for then that captain, I believe, or engineer, I think it was captain though, that was doing it from a few meetings ago. So what does that look like as well? The one that I'm gonna trigger on a little bit is overtime. I don't know what our overall overtime is right now. But a few years back, the LFRA hired rovers to reduce the overtime. It didn't reduce, it went up. And then with the additional 13 positions, we hired additional staffing. That was supposed to reduce that, and it didn't reduce. It went up yet again. And so I want to see the full picture of overtime. I know we're asking for 100 grand, but I don't know if we're spending 5 million, 10 million, and what those numbers look like, but we keep adding staff to reduce it, but it keeps going up. And so it kind of triggers on me there a little bit. So that's the question. I'll be quiet and I'll come back later. I got a few more. And we don't need to answer it today, but just come back. With that.
So Chief Smith did prepare some handouts, some graphs for you a couple months ago, and I'm sure he'd be happy to meet with you and go over those graphs again to show where the need is and why there is a continued.
And I think it's for the whole board to consume. So if you would provide it to the whole board, so that when we have that discussion, we're all there. So I'll be quiet for now, sure, but I do have some more questions. So when we have a chance to go through, I'll have a few more. Thank you.
Director Sampson.
Thank you, yes. So I also have a few questions. So I have some questions about the additional battalion. Actually, before I get into any of this, what are you looking for from us today in regard to this item?
Thank you for asking that. I should have said that to begin with. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
What we're looking for is I need to be entering in the city budget software what our request or expectation of the budget is for 27. So what I'm looking for is just direction on where the board would like us to go as far as, which items should we be entering, so that the city can move forward on their process. This is of course not the actual approving the budget for 2027. Just looking for some direction of
Like
where to where a first draft so that we can start working with city staff to move forward with the budget. I realize this is a huge ask. I'm not confused that $9.9 million is a lot of money. And I don't know where it could come from. But it's important that we show the board what it really costs
Thank you.
to run and maintain the fire department. And there's obviously some hard decisions to be made.
Yeah. And we have to have these hard conversations, right? I mean, that's our job, that's your job, that's what we do, which I'm great with. I think the starting place for me is, having that, and Director Thompson talked about this, and you and I spoke about it before, and I brought it before, but having that real kind of look back at what we did last year, what our line item looked like, since, Director Mayor McFall and I weren't here at that time, to kind of just see how that was all broke down. I think you provided that budget for us as well. And I have reviewed all the things, all the information you sent me. But just so we can kind of maybe take a look in the public, what our line item budget looks like. I would like to see that. I think that's good for our public to know as well. Because as you said, like this is isolated, this is a huge ask. And this is, for someone who's operating on like the average everyday single or two income household, like holy cow, $9.9 million, So I think having that conversation would be really beneficial. And I know, Chief Settlebach had mentioned, our prior Chief Settlebach had mentioned doing like a retreat. I don't know if there's still opportunity to do something like that, where we can really kind of delve in publicly into the budget. I agree, obviously I was shocked at the last meeting when we weren't fully funding our personnel. I had thought, it was a total misconception of mine, because I had thought that that's what had been done in the last budget, and then it looked like it hadn't, and so that's a priority for me, so I would say yes, it's a go. But the rest of it, like, I'd kind of like to do some comparatives, and I'd really like to know, like, the $4 million in apparatus, like, I had a question about that, which actually skips a few things that I had, but you mentioned we didn't replenish the apparatus fund for a couple of years. Why? Did we
Because
just
we don't
not,
have the money.
did the money go somewhere else?
Yeah, it went to operating costs. It went to trying to get so that there was some salary increase last year.
But we didn't have a salary increase last year, I thought
Yes,
you
we
said.
did.
Oh, we
Yes.
did?
Yeah.
Okay,
The increase came
I
from
thought you
the
had said
rural.
we didn't.
And it came
Yeah.
from the rural and also eliminating that contribution
Okay,
to the apparatus replacement.
okay. How many years have we not been contributing to? Do you have it in off the top of your head?
This is the first year that we have not contributed anything in, I don't know, 12, 15 years. But it has been reduced 3 times in the last 6 years until we got to 26 and it was reduced to 0.
3 times.
Is that?
We haven't done a proper introduction of you yet, Chief Rasky, but I was curious. Hi, welcome. In your tenure, in your history, how often does it happen that we don't fund the apparatus fund?
Well, that's a great question, Counselor. When I got here in 2009, there was no equipment replacement budget. It had been absorbed into the city's general fund. And the response that I got from the budget director at that time was, we don't really need that. If you need money for a fire engine, come and speak to us. We'll take it out of the general fund. And then we had the 2008, 2009 recession where we were in a lot of trouble. So, and then right away, our apparatus, we discovered that we had significant issues mechanically. When I first got here in my first 2 to 3 weeks, I probably got 5 phone calls saying, Chief, you got a problem. And that was a significant one because we had 2 engines, frontline engines, that were in the mechanic shop with significant rust on structural frame rails.
Wow, Russ.
So, Counselor, that was a problem for us, and it took quite some time to work that into a valid, cogent equipment replacement fund. When I left here in 2014, we had not only all of our apparatus on a schedule for replacement with that equipment replacement fund, we even went as far as to amortize out the cost of replacement of SCBA's, radios, thermal imaging cameras, detection equipment. We had all that done. When I got back here 23 days ago, I discovered that we don't have that. So I'm not sure exactly what happened either, but somewhere along the line with budget cuts and requests to reduce the budget, those things went away. That's the best I can do for you right now. But
Maybe that budget retreat would be good though, huh?
It might be
Delve
really
into it
good.
a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, thank you for that, because that seems very logical, and coming into this, that's kind of what I thought maybe we had.
yes,
So it'd be good to kind of figure out how we can get back to that.
that would be
in
our
some way,
goal,
shape, or form.
to
I like
build a
that.
plan to get back to that. That's part of our plan here.
Okay, good, I like it, I like it. So I'm not gonna comment in full on the 4 mil for apparatus at this point in time. But I actually was wondering if we also could discuss, and I don't know, Mr. Chair, how much time do we have to get to this item?
Much time you want.
Okay, good, 'cause I have a whole page.
That's fine.
Okay, so that takes off a few. So I had a question about the additional battalion. and the need for office construction. But I feel like maybe we can kind of dive into that a little bit further at a point in the future. I'm just curious as to like, if we're operating very clearly on bare bones in some of our departments and some of our needs, do we need to build a new office? Do we need a new battalion? I mean, it's not to cut corners. It's not to, I am sensitive to overworking our staff. I'm sensitive to their mental health, and to their quality of work. So I'm not against adding a battalion if that's what's needed, but I'm curious if that's, it's like if you said like, here's the best new car for your family. And I'm like, well, why? And you're like, because, and this is how much it costs. And then I'm supposed to make a decision on that.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like a little bit of a data person.
right. Counsel, you ask a series of really good questions. Let me try to take the big one and try to address that.
Okay,
A second battalion is something as a community grows, the number of calls grow.
right.
Size of the area and district grows. We find our span of control with battalion chiefs is limited. If you go by the information that's available from National Fire Academy, their view of this is 3 to 7 is your span of control, 5 is ideal.
Mhm.
Right now, our one battalion chief vehicle and that battalion chief is covering 7 stations, 9 companies, 248 square miles and 2 volunteer stations. It's a huge ask for one battalion. It also limits you in your ability fundamentally to properly staff that command position with other command positions as that fire, the rescue, whatever that call is, grows in potential.
Right.
This is not anything any different than any other community. I spent 27 years at Poudre Fire, 13 years as a battalion chief, and we went through this same struggle of trying to expand to a second battalion. And it's I know it's a bit hard to understand, but that span of control of one battalion chief is limited. And we, by the numbers, have hit that limit. In fact, we've gotten past it. So the need is there. If I were to prioritize this in comparison to some of the other things, I wouldn't put it near as high as compensation for our firefighters, but it's something we've got to deal with in the future. So we're making you aware of it now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'd like to talk about that in the future as well. Maybe it's very own item on an agenda, so we can talk about, the growth of the district and everything else and kind of where that all kind of plays in. And then I do have a couple more questions. However, out of respect, I didn't know, Mr. Chair, if you would like me just to continue, or if, I don't know.
You're welcome to
Director-
continue. This is helpful.
Thanks,
We're
Paul.
trying to figure out where we need to go with
Okay.
this. So unless,
Can I throw a couple of things in here before you get there? I appreciate it. That's why I try to talk for you at council. It helps me. So it's good to get that one. So one, I
Thank
don't disagree with Director Sampson. I think compensation for me is number one thing. I mean, it's been something and again, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised. I'm surprised it hasn't been out there. I'm not surprised that compensation is lacking. I'm surprised it hasn't been taken care of already. Because I know a couple of years ago, we said at council, it was the number one aspect of going in there. So I definitely believe that's the number one thing that we need to be looking at. Any obligations we already have should be on the number one list as well. So the radio leases, we've already said we were gonna obligate the funding for that. It's already out there. We need to take care of those things first and make sure we've got the budget for that. I'm a big believer in taking care of your capital or having a capital fund to be able to take care of your expenses in your facilities, because I mean, we're looking at something the same thing at the Chilson Center. We've got an ADU, is that an ADU? That is old and could go out, and if it goes out, it's gonna cost us immensely, and we have to shut the building down. We don't want to shut stations down because we're not taking care of it. So figuring out a way that we can get a capital fund put together, that we can deal with these things in an expeditious manner is extremely important to me. Chief, I agree with you. I think as you start to expand, leadership has to expand as well, because having leaders over an immense aspect, and it comes from the militaristic aspect of my life. That, when you create a regiment, you create X amount of things. You've got a small piece down here, it's fine. You have one battalion chief. As you grow, you need more to go in there.
Thank
And
you.
just figuring out where you go to, and overburdening one leader doesn't help your
Yes.
firefighters whatsoever. So I think that is something to look at. as far as, I realize the IT network piece is there, but I'd like to see if there's a way that we can find some synergy with the city to maybe take over some of it, or to take on some of the IT stuff until we can get to a point where we can afford to hire IT folks. And it's just something to look at. If it's not possible, that's fine. Then I think we can look at that. I would like to understand better the overtime cost itself. It's gonna happen. This is not a 9 to 5 job at all. And we don't know when the next Alexander or anything's gonna hit. So having the ability to be able to pay our firefighters while they're out there doing the work itself is something extremely important. So in looking at that, I would put that at one of the top of the list for me as well. I have to have a better understanding on the apparatus purchases, just to understand where the lifetimes are and everything else to figure that out. But that's kind of where I'm gonna sit right now, and I'll think about it a little more and give you some more info. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you.
If I could, one of the things that I learned yesterday in the interview process was that, and I don't doubt this figure, that we're currently paying the city of Loveland $650,000 for IT services. Is that correct?
So there is a cost allocation.
Is it close to that, Andrew?
I believe it is in that range. It's one lump sum for, all of the items that the city provides. I believe if we did the math, it would come out to around 600,000 for IT.
Thank you. So if we do the math, that's $790,000 we're spending for IT services for the department. Now, I don't know if that's par for the course. I don't know, Chief, if that's, or is there a better way of spending that money, either internally, but almost $800,000 for IT services seems a bit high for an organization this size.
We don't have an option. We are 100% dependent on the city's IT network and system.
Okay.
And to go away from that, we'd have to build our own, and I think that would be even more expensive.
Okay.
Our conversations with dispatch and IT that's overseeing those pieces, we feel like what our proposal is our best option, but it would be in addition to what we're already contributing to the city. And to answer your question, we do have services, but we have bigger needs that aren't being met, and that's part of why the ask from dispatch. But if we can contribute, that could still be part of the system from our point of view.
Fair enough. That number just staggered me, but if it's the cost of doing business, it's the cost of doing business. I get that.
Yeah, I can talk, Paul, I can talk to you about that. It's not cheap.
What, another line of work or?
No, it should be cheaper.
Okay. And if I might, and Chief Romowski, I had a chance to talk to you about this, but I had the opportunity to talk to one of our lieutenants this weekend, just ran into him. And his biggest concern, we talked about for a long time, one of the things he said is burnout. And so, I mean, we can have the newest and coolest stuff, but if the people that do the hard work every day are burned out, we got a problem.
Yes.
So compensation is one thing, but if we don't have the personnel to alleviate the burnout, and I understand the mandatory overtime, I understand, like, to my best of my ability, how you guys try and solve everything you can, right? So how do we balance additional compensation against burnout? I mean, it's not an easy question. I don't even know if there's an answer, Chief, but my concern is throwing more money, and I understand the compensation is important. We got to take care of that. But if we have the best compensated burned out people in the world, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a hard problem to solve. But after talking for 2 hours, it's like, this is the issue.
Yeah.
So I just like that to be addressed.
Yeah, I think, Paul, to me, the most important factor there is to determine the cause of that burnout. It may be different for different individuals. As you know, I've been going around with the stations. We'll talk more about this later in the slides, about just getting a good feel for where we are as an organization. And there's no question that one of the most common things that have come up that I think is related to that burnout piece, probably not the only thing, but the mandatory overtime. That's a real tough thing for our folks to have. It is very disruptive to their own personal lives. You know, they're committed to the shift schedule that they have now, which is a 48-96. They're on duty 48 hours at a time. And then to ask to come back or to mandatorily require them to come back is a heavy, heavy burden on the firefighters. And that, there's no question, that is a contributing factor to the burnout. Is it the only factor? I don't believe so, but I think that's a significant.
So I hope the gist, I understand the gist of my question. Are you gonna have the shiniest, coolest fire trucks in the industry?
Sure.
And if you got burned out people running them, you have burned out people running them. So I'm just trying to throw some balance in there, chiefs. I'm not
Yeah, I
second
got it.
guessing what we need, Andrea. I'm not second guessing what we need. I'm trying to address a hard issue that somebody had the time to, took the time to talk to you about.
Sure, can I ask a clarifying
Absolutely,
question?
absolutely.
Could you clarify mandatory requirement of overtime? Would you clarify that for me? What's it mean?
Yeah, I'm gonna look to Chief Smith, because that's his
That's fine.
area, and he's really the subject matter expert. Mayor, I could give you my opinion on it, but I'm gonna let Chief Smith address how we deal with it here at Loveland Fire Rescue.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's, you're ordered into work. You don't have any excuse to come in unless it's protected by law, like your own FMLA. So there's a big impact right now to our firefighters. There's probably an average, out of the 33 firefighters that we have, the average is probably 100 hours of overtime already this year that all of them have. That changed for that process of ordering people into work last year because of budget, because of overtime, and we pushed it down to the lowest level. So in the past, we could have a captain riding backwards. That's not their normal role, but they were willing to come in and, you know, save, I guess, the firefighter from getting mandatory into work. That practice has changed for the last year and some months that we're into it now, we force it down to the lowest level. If we have qualified people, we put them in the right seat. And then whatever the lowest level is, that's the person that gets ordered into work. It's hitting the firefighters really hard right now. And I guess I'd like to add to like your question about like the burnout and that piece. I feel like these are pieces that we've been trying to address with the positions that have been funded over the last several years. The support from getting the rover positions that we have. I do have my presentation that we went over a month ago, I think, when we met. So I can talk about the rovers, or at least the leaves that we're experiencing and what the overtime looks like. But yeah, it's a big concern for us with, you know, if we don't have the overtime or how we force who's coming into work. But we're trying to alleviate it by, you know, continuing filling those positions.
probably more in depth, but I'll sit down with Chief Smith and get a little bit better understanding. Thank you.
But I hope you understand the gist of my question.
Yes.
And I promised that I would do it,
Yes.
and it's important. Did you have something else?
I heard, didn't you? You got a lot more.
A lot more, okay. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. All right, I actually don't have a lot more, I only have a couple. So I was wondering if when we discussed the salary like deficit, basically, at the last meeting, we had asked to see comparables, and I was just wondering if you would be able to provide like who your comparables were. And if you did and I missed it, I apologize.
So that would be an HR.
Okay, so I just like to know, not because I'm doubting your data, just because I'd like to create a picture in my mind of like who we see ourselves on par with and who our firefighters and who our staff are comparing themselves to, right? Because I imagine that's what you're gathering, right? That kind of collective data. It's not to say, oh, well, Longmont's not actually, or it's not for that. It's just for a whole picture. And so I would really like that if I could get that from you. I was just curious, when we talk about capital improvement funds, you said we have $0 in our capital improvement funds
Because
for like the stations.
for this, so there's 2 stations that LFRA now owns, and also then facilities at the training center. And so that's relatively new. When was Station 7?
Station 7 was built in 2019. So prior to that, LFRA didn't own any facilities. They're owned by the city of Loveland. They're owned by the Loveland Borough. And so those two stations, Station 7, 10, and then any improvements we do at the training center, such as the health clinic, then are LFRA owned. So then we need a fund to be able to make those necessary repairs.
So the reason we haven't had a fund is because until Station 7 opened, we didn't need one.
Right.
And then at the beginning, the building is new, there's some warranties and things.
How was it funded, Station 7 and Station 10?
Funded through our,
No, go ahead.
through our impact fees. So we have a,
Yes, that's why you don't have them.
Yep.
Okay. But you didn't budget, the O&M wasn't budgeted when we built those buildings? Okay, that's all right, we'll do it now.
just,
Okay,
let me back up. Like carpet cleaning, things like that. Were budgeted, but not a capital, like the HVAC goes out.
gotcha.
Was
Gotcha.
budgeted then.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But what you're saying makes sense to me. Okay, so thank you, and then, let me just look through my list of questions here, because a few of mine already got answered. Oh, and that's the other thing I wanted to ask, there was a slide back for medical insurance, I was just curious, is when you're able to provide the comparables for salary, if you can give us that whole picture, including the FPPA, death and disability, including medical insurance, including any other like additional like compensation packages, just again, so I can get the whole picture. I don't disagree that we need to, make compensation priority. I don't disagree that we need to be fighting burnout. But just from my mind, so I have the whole picture of that, I would really appreciate that. And even if it could be brought in like in a future agenda item so that it's public, I think that would be great. And then also to address the overtime as well. I'm very interested in that. I was curious as to the IT CAD admin, because you did mention that we received CAD through the city, and I didn't know if that was the same CAD, but it sounds like it might be the 600,000 for IT.
It's kind of two different things. CADs are dispatch services.
Right.
And then their IT is responsible for portions of that. Because
Okay.
It's actually a countywide system, so it's a blend of pieces.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that answers my questions, for the most part, and I would have to agree, certainly the things like, Director McFall said, the things that we're already committed to, our leases. I think it sounds like the spectrometer is very important. I would imagine we could find $50,000, I should hope. I'm concerned about burnout as well, but, and I'd like more information for the overtime. But absolutely compensation. I would like a little bit more information about death and disability, but I feel like we have to do something there, it sounds like, if that's what our comparables are doing. And also because we care about our staff.
Yes.
And then I would like to know a little bit more about pre-accreditation consultant, although that sort of feels like nickeling and diming, but that's only $10,000 more than the spectrometer. So, maybe there's like some sort of partnership with our neighbors or something for that might be good. So, overall, I have a few concerns with this. There are definitely some things I'm ready to say, yes, let's go forward. But I don't know that I can say yes to everything just yet, because I just don't have enough.
Sure.
Okay. And I think that's it for me, for good.
Yeah, just a few more and on the schedule and the burnout and everything, there's multiple ways to do it, right? Right now, we work the 2 on, 3 off type scenario. There are ones where you work 1, you're off 2, and everybody has their preference, and that's usually driven by firefighters maybe wanting to have bigger windows of time off, and rather than just group them together. But it does, what I found over in my career, that creates burnout. And so a lot of cities that I'm familiar with, that I've worked in, where we went to, where we left it because of that burnout, because especially if you're in a busy station. And so what we started to try to do was a busy station, we would have you in one shift, then you would move for your next 24 shift to a different station of less magnitude of call volume. Because that call volume, if you're in that high call volume one, running it 2 days straight, you're not sleeping, you get woke up when you do try to sleep, everything else. So there's ways to combat that a little bit, but there's no perfect solution. Every fire department faces this, just because vacations and people get injured and then they're out, and you got to cover those shifts. And then even if you have rovers, you're still not perfect either. Do you use rovers only when you have the vacancies? Do you call them in, or do you always have them on the shifts? Which we always have them on the shifts, But some go to the point with the rovers, they only bring them in when they need to bring them in and not work shifts otherwise, but we're always scheduled on shifts, so there's days that we have extra firefighters on shift. But then you could throw somebody in training and eliminate some of the overtime and other things, so it's a scheduling nightmare, and so I understand that and I appreciate that. So there's no simple fix, I wish there was, everybody tries different things. Back on the compensation, the 2.6, so last year we had a little discussion about the increase in where we were at in the market, and we said we were pretty far behind the market, and so what was that is, so this is this, because it's 13.5%, if I assume 70% of our total budget is personnel, right? So it's still a huge increase. I mean, the city, they'll get their market adjustment, and they'll have a chance for those that are not maxed out in their range, but you only have 2 steps of most are maxed out. We no longer give bumps or one-time stipends. We did away with all that. Now, if you're still in the range, bump up to the top of the range, but at a maximum 3% a year. It's usually 2 or 2.5% that we go with. And so this is, a good 120% more of an increase than what others are seeing in the marketplace. So does it catch us up? Is it taking us to 50%? This number, does it take us to 70%? Does it take us to 30%? Because we were at 0%, as I understood the last discussion. So where does this bigger number than what we've seen traditionally take us?
So the 2.3 would take us to the 50th.
And 2.6 takes us
And
up.
the 2.6.
Yeah, the
takes us-
2.6.
That's estimated.
That will
because I
take
don't
us to the
have-
50, right? We're not knowing what everybody else doing, the timing of it, when we find
Those
it,
should start
all
coming
that,
in
right?
soon.
I got that. But that will then take us to the 50 and put us back to where we would, at least where we need to be
Yes.
at minimum.
Yes.
Okay. So I understand that number because it's bigger than traditionally it's been, right? It's been in a million something number. So we fell behind. The other one, I just manage expectations, right? I don't think anyone will enjoy a 41% tax increase or a 36% tax increase to pay for this. And that's what we're talking about. And so we're talking about without the 1.6 that has to be made up for 13 on the city side, with that 1.6, 41% increase. The city's taxes are not going up 41%. We're not raising taxes. But even in the value of property, even though we have very low property tax in comparison to our total revenue, it's mostly sales tax. We're not going to see, 80% of the 9.9 plus the 1.6. We're not going to see 10 million increase in sales tax next year at the city. We'll see a few million, maybe a couple, 2.6, 2.7 million. That means the city's going to have to cut 8 million from police and parks and rec and everything else to be able to afford the 80% in this formula, because we're not increasing taxes 41% to make up the 1.6 plus the 9.9. 36% for everybody, we would have to increase taxes to make up for this increase. So we can't do it all. And we know that. So now the question is, what are those priorities and how do we walk back to the 27 and everything? I'm just trying to put the facts on the table that there's no way that the community would say, yeah, we're willing to pay 41% more in taxes. It's just not going to happen. And nor are we asking for that. We're trying to make it up with what we have in growth, and that's just not going to happen either. Part of that discussion probably will have to be, I know I got short-term syndrome, so I'll put it out there, but at some point we got to come back and revisit 80-20, the taxing models and everything else. I mean, we set it up originally and it made great sense and everything, but we just increased the size of the rural district substantially for service. Now granted, the service level may not have increased much. We have 1 year in arrears before you start collecting tax from that area. So we're picking it up for a year with no taxes being collected, and we have to service that area. But we probably at some point just need to talk about that, because what the city does pretty much, if we did a short analysis, like I say, we're taking our whole 9.6 mils, all of it. Nothing else going for police or anything else that the city does. And we're putting sales tax towards it right now to get to the 80%. And so at some point we need to have a talk about what does that look like and what's best, and how do we fund, and is it based on values of property? Is it based on area of coverage kind of what we did back on the 80-20, as I understand, I wasn't here, was kind of more of a call volume at that time, but that was before Johnstown and all these other things. The district took in a big part of Johnstown, and the call volume out that is probably very similar to what it is within the city limits as well. And so when you have a large fire, your resource dedication of that is substantially larger than maybe a small contained fire in the city too. So if we had a wildfire out front, it's gonna cost a lot more, and 5 of the 13 positions are really for wildland mitigation. And so I think we need to step back a little bit, maybe have that talk as well of what that new model might look like, so we can start putting aside money for vehicles. Otherwise, we're gonna be sitting here saying, Chief, here's $3 million, you know, take care of the 2.6, and here's another 400,000, kind of like we did last. It doesn't fix the issue. So we're gonna have a bigger discussion, and I hate to do that in the sense that, but it's just not enough. And that's why I appreciate what you did. It shows truly what we need to operate like we should be operating. And we haven't done that for years. And so we really need to back up. In fact, we went the other direction, you know, for a few years where we spent down different funds. We did things differently. We added new programs without looking at, are they sustainable and stuff like that. And so it's to go back and look at 27 million, what's in there that's not sustainable, or radios, you know, where we had to go out and lease all the radios because they were so old that we weren't on a replacement plan for the radios as most fire departments would run. So those are the kind of things we need to sit down and rework it. So 730 just gets us radios that at some point the lease goes away. We're going to keep paying that every year. There's a point in time where you say, let's put 930 and start putting 200,000 a year. And let's get back on, you're replacing 20 radios every year, routine versus doing them all at one time. They all get old at the same time, everything else. And so those are the kind of discussions that I think would be fruitful for this group to have, so we can walk down that path. And I know it's hard to do, and it's hard to do in this environment sometimes. So maybe it might be good for, if all willing, but LFRA, Andrea, finance, and Andrea to sit down with maybe the city, but then also the district's management group, that and maybe just have a side discussion and really start working through all that, inclusive the IT discussion as well.
Right.
Why does it cost that much? How? And it could be software, it could be the types of software, could have multiple platforms. I found that already in our environment where, you know, we may have 9 different platforms and 8 of them have just similar modules, but we like this one. So we bought that module and we had to make it talk to this software. I mean, there's all of that you need to go through at some point, clean all that up. But I kind of went off on that, but I'm just being real that there's no way that 41 or 36% is going to happen. And I think it's just a bigger discussion for all of us to have and find a solution, that we have a path forward. We've had to do that with a lot of things. Unfortunately, at the city, may it be the Downtown Development Authority, maybe the Foundry, maybe all these others, kind of blew them up and just said, we're not on the right path. We're digging holes that we were not going to be able to dig out of. We got to be realistic. And so that I would suggest that we do that here and look at what that looks like. And I don't know if we accounted for, because next year we will start collecting, or the district will start collecting monies from that huge area that was taken in. It's 1 year in arrears. So
It's
does
not
that
it's not that much.
Yeah,
Substantial.
it may not be, because there's not that much value out there. But what are those discussions, you know, look like? And again, I think the biggest one is Johnstown. But Johnstown's interesting, and I share that from the city's perspective. So the city of Loveland, we collect our 9.6% in property tax, our 3% sales tax. Johnstown are in a fire district, portion of the rural district here, a portion of that. So they're collecting their 11 mills on fire, plus 23 mills for the city, plus 4% on the taxes. And so it's totally different. We have to take our 3% on our taxes, which doesn't tax food anymore, and only 9.6 mills and pay for everything that others have separate districts that they're paying into that are collecting from the taxpayers. And so again, that makes it more challenging for me to say, based on the numbers here, I would have to cut about, if we did this, I would have to cut about 7 million out of the departments in the city. And that's just not going to happen, because we did major cuts a couple of years ago. So just giving us
If I could, to Jim's point, how much revenue was brought in by the inclusion elections? Was it 250,000?
That's a question for your management. I don't.
Okay, you don't remember that. I'm just writing, if you could, I think it was $250,000 total on the inclusion election, but I have to find out. So if you look at that with this budget, it's not a substantial piece of this budget currently, right? One of the questions I had too, if I could please, on the FPPA and D&D. So in speaking with the officer I spoke with this weekend, he informed me that his payment per month for that coverage is roughly, I'm thinking $380-400 a month. Does that sound about right? I don't doubt it. That's just crazy expensive.
It's 4.2% for them.
Is it really? Okay. So that's something that we have to help with, period. End of story. That's kind of crazy. So. And I'm speaking as a rural board member. I think that's something that we can help out with too. That's important. So I don't think we gave you what you wanted, Andrea.
Not exactly. I would like to just mention one thing. I just real quick was looking at what our underspend was, or basically the difference between budget and actual spend in 2025. It was, we spent 97% of our budget. So we can, definitely look at each line item, but with the cuts that we had and things, there's not a lot of wiggle room there, without starting to really go in and cut services. So just have that. I don't have a solution for the whole funding.
I think Jim said it right. Now try and put it into less words. And that's the aspect is we need to figure out,
Always the jab.
we need to figure out how to get the operational side healthy. While not depleting the other two ends of the LFRA. And the only way we can do this is to talk together and start rowing in the same direction. And I think that's the biggest aspect of it.
If I may, on the 3%.
That's less
But
words.
I'd like to see any savings on the 3% operational on the year goes back to capital the next year. Right, so we could maybe put that towards vehicles or a portion thereof, because then you slowly start catching up. Because if you then take it and add it to additional operational costs, and then your operational costs, you don't see the 3%, you hit 100%. Plus now you have the additional operational costs that you added to the budget that was requested. So the capital is just that one-time hit, but it starts to replenish that deficiency of the 4 million.
If we had a decent fund balance, I would agree. Our fund balance is
That's been depleted as well, and I know,
It's
so that
scary
maybe where
level.
you just build that up and get to a 10% at minimum. If you ever have to issue debt, if you're not at 10%, you're not gonna be able to issue debt, or you're gonna pay some ridiculous 12% or something like that. That's kind of the baseline minimum, and, so. Anyhow, so I guess where I'm landing, to give some direction, I think the 2.6, we'll have to consider whether or not we want to get to 50%, do go from 0% to 50% that quickly. Maybe we do 25 and the following year 25 and make that 1.8 or whatever the number needs to be, and have that discussion. A couple of the top ones on the list, which is just in the order of the other, but the other sheet that you gave us, Andrea, it really, which ones we have to do. We have to do the 730,000. We have to do the 1.6 million on the city side, which is not the district side. But we have to pick that up. I don't think we're gonna hit I'll just kind of go through mine real quick. Radios, we have to do. The worker comp premium we'll have to do. I don't know how that impacts it depending on where we set salaries, percentage of salaries, I assume. And so all of that will then change slightly to what that is. I'm not a huge fan of the overtime until we've walked through it, but I think the whole board walks through it and gets an understanding of the complexity of that. The program essentials, I'd like to kind of know what what programs are we talking about? Not just program essentials, but what are they? Are they contractually obligated and we have to do them regardless? Or are they ones that we could choose to amend the contract or do something different in the contract? The spectrometer, I'm okay with that. So if I cut the line there, I'm still at a 3.7 increase with bringing up to 2.6. So if I did something less than that, and plus then the 1.6 for, which is still a 13.5% increase, which there's no other department in the city going to see 13.5. So that's hard because that means somebody else doesn't get things in the city. So even with just that first point, so that means The VCs, I get the, the double, it's just not gonna happen. The overtime increase, the IT, we'll walk through that and see what that is, but that's pretty big increase, so we need to sit down and talk about that. The capital facilities fund, probably not happening, their apparatus. If we take some of the fund balance of the 3%, and throw a little bit that, at least we can start fighting it a little bit, and maybe we do it over 5 years, trying to catch back up. Do 20% a year, now granted, that means you got to do it for now 12 years, because you're not doing enough in that first year to make up for all the years that we haven't done it. And then the FPPA, D&D, that one I know we considered last year and we didn't go there just because of where we're at, and so now we are here again, so that's probably one we need to talk about. And the accreditation consultant, that's a minimal amount, but still, probably the biggest one is the apparatus of the 4 million and the battalion chief. So if you cut those out, you're still at 23-24% increase, and again, we can't do that. So I kind of cut my line after the spectrometer and not even have that the further discussion on the other. But I then want to go back to the 27, talking about the 3% as well, and the 27 to see what else is in there. I know we have a lot of talk about the health center, and we had that discussion as well, the overtime versus going to CSU. CSU is not as in depth. I brought it up to chief recently as well. But then we save on overtime because the new group goes out there. One of the things was with anybody that joined, I'd like to see if we can amend the contract, because it was always the belief that if somebody, or the misunderstanding, I guess, is that if somebody, another organization joins, kind of like we had on the radios. So last summer, we came forward and said we needed to approve the radios by the end of the week. And we have all these agencies, and then we came back in December and said, well, a lot of these agencies went away. And so now here's our new numbers and here's the new agreement. So then we had to consider it again in December. Well, likewise with the Health and Wellness Center, as we thought all these agencies were going to come forward, but then at least I found out, I wasn't here when it was all set up, that if other agencies come on board, we don't see that revenue just goes to the provider. Yet we're providing the building, yet we're providing all the overhead and everything else. So I really want to get into that a little depth too, to see if others sign up to use that wellness center, because their physicals are much more in depth and they meet the NFPA standards and everything else, which I appreciate. We should do that. But I want to make sure that if other agencies start using the facilities, that we start getting compensated from those agencies or from the provider, a percentage of that, and maybe it offset our cost because we get the reduced cost. But how reduced is it in comparison to what the other agencies are? I can tell you that there was comments made that potentially the police department and others are joining, and right now I know the police department is not joining that consortium, and so I just share that if there was any thought to that. But we need to have more in-depth discussion on it. I don't think we ever fully unraveled that, and we've had substantial amount of board meeting discussions on it where we started to hit at it, but we never got there. So that'd be another one too. I really need to understand that, because we added that, we added the new training facility, all these other things, and the staffing for the training facility. And it's added, and maybe we need to refocus a little bit where those energies need to be and at what level we need.
The staffing for the training facility,
What's that?
what you're saying, we added staffing for the training facility?
No, the training BCs and the other things that we have out there, we just need to look at how we're utilizing them, because we have the training BC there when Berthoud's training and things like that, or can Berthoud provide their own, or what can we do? And granted, we need to have some oversight and management, but I really think we should have some of those discussions as well, and that's part of the 27 million. So I'm back to that 27 million. When we're trying to do all these other things, we got to start choosing which is best on that spectrum. And but first, my recommendation is that LFRA staff meet with the city staff and with the administrator for the district and really sit down and talk about the overall financing and what it looks like, because on the model we're on right now, we're never going to be able to do this. Just not. It just digs the hole deeper and deeper. So we got to have a bigger discussion of what that looks like.
Andrea.
Yeah, thank you, Director Thompson, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like and I think I probably said it, but I just want to be like super clear about it, that I would like a more streamlined look at all of our items, our funds, our spends. I was curious too, as to the total revenues with the inclusion, with the area that was included in the election. And that's something that LFRA should have, that shouldn't just be with the district, I would think, because it's, even though they submit their revenues to us from a district, it's still part of our service area. So I feel like it would be good for us to know that
But
number.
we don't receive any of that money automatically. There's a reason why.
Okay, then it would be great to have a meeting where we could discuss that so that I could understand that better. And and I would like to know kind of more of how all that's broke down, and then also how we've arrived here. Because we have our total ask, but as you know, Director Thompson said, like, do we need to do 100% of every single thing? I know you had mentioned, Andrea, that we spent 90%. Our actual was 97% of what we budgeted last year. And I don't want to be critical of something I don't know about, so I'd like to know more, so I can be critical. No, I'd like to know more so that I could really take a good look at do we need to be spending 97% of what was budgeted? Do we need to be spending on what is budgeted? Does it align with our current priorities? We're under new leadership, even though it's interim at the moment, we will eventually be under, permanent new leadership. You have a new board. We have new needs in our community. We have now an expanded service area. I would like to relook at, the priorities as a whole. And this is really hard. Like, I have to tell you, like, this is a big ask from your board to bring these numbers that are really beautiful, whole rounded numbers, but I don't have anything to like really substantiate it behind it. So when I go home and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally supported, a $10 million increase. Like, oh, what'd you spend it on? Well, these items. Well, what did that mean? I actually don't know. Like, I know it's good and I trust our staff and I trust our, our department, but I can't be accountable for these numbers because I don't know what's behind them. So I would like to know
When
more.
are you able to meet? Because I think we've tried to set up a meeting.
Oh, have we?
times.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, we can
Several
work on
times.
that, but what I actually would like is a public. So what I'd really like is to break this down. So I don't know if you've seen what our city staff has done in the past, but what they do is we do like a budget retreat. And they bring like literally every line item to us. And not for us to say, yay, yes, you can have more copier paper. No, you can't have more pens. It's so that we are accountable for the dollars that we're approving. And we are able to go through every single department, all of the breakdown. There aren't miscellaneous, there isn't like any, and then the ask too, then it makes more sense for us too. And we're able to stand behind it, which as, representatives, that's really, really important that we can stand behind our decisions. And so I can meet with you personally and I would love to do that. But what I would really, really love is for us to have like a budget session. I mean, I know you guys probably want more meetings. We don't have enough meetings in our lives, but.
I think that's reasonable that we do that. I mean, these are important issues. You need to get some answers so you can proceed
So,
with.
yeah, I need to provide, because we're heading kind of down the path we went last year, where we're not providing city staff what they need early enough in the year because we're having more discussions. I'm happy to have more discussions.
Well, I think if we had a special meeting, God knows we don't need more meetings, but to discuss this is the topic. We can bring Brian's organization. Brian, you have something to say, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I think that's the path we're on. To your point, Commissioner Sampson, when Andrew's talking about we have a chicken and the egg thing here with the LFRA, right? But they have to bring the budget to you, but then it has to be approved by the rural and the city separately, since they're the funding mechanisms. So I think the path that we're on here is that this will facilitate Andrea getting these things entered into our system as the city. That will facilitate us being able to generate those reports you're more familiar with, like we do with the city budget workshops. And then we can have that meeting, this group. And that's what we did have to sit down with Deputy CFO Molly Elder was there, I was there, Andrea was there, I think Chief Borowski was there, Chief Ward was there, to talk about having that exact kind of meeting and how let's get this piece approved. And like they said, this is very high level, right? This is general. Let us move on with the process, and then we can really look at the detail once we've gotten past this step, and then we can have that detailed discussion, which I really think will reset this cycle. We've kind of had this chicken and the egg thing every year, and have never gotten to those answers. This year, we're working together to get to the detail level.
This has been very helpful. I mean, in all honesty, when we talked about this last month, the month before. So I'm just one person on the board, but would it be helpful to have a session where this is the topic? If Brian, your staff, and we can all work together and go, okay, now what? does this help, Andrea, or are we just making it bigger?
It's really kind of a question, I think, for Brian's stat, I mean, because I think what you're saying is let's schedule something for the future and not have any
In the near
amounts that
future-
we're
in the near
putting into.
future, Yeah,
So, I mean, it's going to impact their staff. Yeah, but I mean, I
What
maybe.
we're saying is to enter the amounts you have here, right, into enterprise.
All of them, I mean, I guess, not enterprise, open up,
Right.
yeah,
Go big,
yeah.
put that in there, and then we can look at it.
Okay.
In a manner that's a little more detailed than, what we have here.
Okay, we'll do that.
but is that
That's
helpful?
direction.
I think it would be very.
Okay, I mean, it seems to me, but there's a lot of people around here. The other thing, if I could add, we mentioned this last year is, it's great to see these numbers, but I want to see the delta. But, and that's the thing that not confused, but, there's an issue with hose last year. We're gonna cut the hose by 30%. Well, there was a board member said, oh my God, you need fire hoses, but we didn't see that was the delta. So the actual number from 2025 to 2026, that number, and then what you're asking for is extremely helpful to me.
Yeah.
25 to 20, I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Sure.
The increase in the budget or the spend from 25 to 20?
What we spent in 2025
Okay,
compared to what we are asking on all these items, and some of these items are new, right? So they're not gonna have a delta, or they're not gonna have a baseline from 2025. But just to see what we're going from year to year is kind of helpful. We can see where we're kind of maybe falling behind. It's just one more metric for us to look
so
at.
that is in the budget resolution?
Right, but I'm saying for having these discussions,
Okay.
period. I don't want to go digging into that.
So
when
the
we're trying to-
budget for 26.
Perfect.
Actual for 20.
Is that helpful for you guys? I
And
mean,
then,
is that helpful?
Yeah, I mean, it's what Brian does for us at the city, and we do look backs even all the way to 2020, 2019, sometimes 2017, where we have, what we budgeted, what our actuals were, then what our delta or our difference was, and that kind of gives us a really good kind of overall picture of the health of our organization, and I think like the financial health, and that's kind of what I feel like we're missing here. We're kind of looking at this, to me, in a little bit of a vacuum, because you're right, we don't have the delta, as you said, or like the look back to say like, oh, wow, this is actually significantly less than you asked for in 2023, or we're making up ground or whatever, right? So yeah, that would be extremely helpful.
So is it appropriate, chiefs and Andrea and Christie, that we could put together a meeting in the next 2 weeks? Is that soon enough, or is that too soon for you?
Depending on who needs to be there, I mean, that's fine,
Well, I would say the board needs to be there so we can understand, and it's your call, Brian, on your staff and your staff, whatever you want to do.
so. If we're going to look at each line item, I mean, I'm wondering if we need to have program managers available. Or I have the information from the.
Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna question line items. I
Right.
think what we're gonna do is take a look so we can see where, as they said, the delta is, right?
Yeah.
And do that. So
Just for
question is
understanding.
we agreed, we're not gonna question the line items. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah, at any time.
Okay, so the action item on this is,
Let's schedule a meeting.
can you help us with that, Christie?
Of course.
Please, thank you.
How, just for my knowledge, how long are we looking at this meeting?
Probably 8 hours.
Can I make
Maybe 2 days.
suggestion?
Sure.
If we could have all the staff groups get together and then come back and make a recommendation, because that's gonna be a number of staff people, and they probably need to have discussions first. They probably need to look at how they're gonna generate the variance report, all the other good stuff, since it's not commonly done. So maybe they meet in the next 2 weeks, and then they set a time, maybe it is a month out, and I know we want to get to that, but I'd rather it be right and everybody's comfortable with it before we just jump into it. So
I'll leave that to you three that know this business quite well. And you come up with a solution if you coordinate it with the chiefs and Christie, that would be great. I'm not gonna question how you guys do things, whatever you need to do.
thank you.
Okay.
And in the interim, I think we've been asked to just say yes to this as a work in progress, kind of thing, right?
It doesn't help you a whole lot. Andrea, I'm
So I
sorry.
think what Brian was suggesting is that I just enter all of this into the budget system.
That's what I heard.
So the city can run with that, with the
Right.
understanding that
Okay,
it will be changed.
That
So as
helps.
long as that's good with the board.
cool. Okay. All right, are there any more questions? Sorry, we didn't help you a whole lot today.
No, I have a place to move forward. You helped me exactly what I needed.
Mayor, do you have any
Helping
other
us too.
questions?
I'm good, sir.
Director Bachman?
Melissa,
Sure,
Chief, I need a chance to say, welcome.
we're not there yet. We're not there.
Just take it on, I may have missed it.
Hang on.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're done with the budget talks for now. Item 14, review briefing papers and correspondence. Thank you, Pat, for the introduction. Chief, I've talked to you so much that it seems like you've been here for a while, and you have. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to the LFRA. Welcome you back to the LFRA. We appreciate you stepping in and helping us through some tough times. And I'm sure everybody in the audience knows who you are, but if you want to give us your quick CV for 2 minutes, that's fine too.
You know, I can't do anything in 2 minutes.
I know, that's
I'm
wishful
bloviating
thinking,
for a
Chief.
reason. Thank you. All appreciate that, and all of the Jim, councils, people that are here. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here. I've made mention earlier, I've been here 23 days, and it is in fact drinking out of fire hose. Lots of changes since I was here 12 years ago. But what hasn't changed is the quality of people that we have at LFRA, the job that they're doing for the community, and their commitment to excellence. That hasn't changed. Now, they're a lot busier than when I was here 12 years ago. Tones go out a lot more calls, etc. But I think what we're trying to do here, and I'm gonna just really compress this, but when I got here, the plan was to do everything we could to keep going what Chief Ward has established, which was really stabilizing the organization. Anytime you have a change of command, there's gonna be challenges in that. You make a new group, it's gonna be challenges in that. That's just the way things go in life. But what we've tried to do is help our people to stay focused on what you do and what you do with excellence. And that is serve the citizens of this community. By that, I mean the city and the rural district. So we've been focusing on stabilization, made this point many times. I didn't come here to sit on my hands and wait for the new chief. I'm not doing that. If that's what you wanted me to do, you got the wrong guy. We're not doing that. So we're moving ahead. We have openings that we have to fill. We have a lot going on in the organization, and we're going to keep moving forward with that. So part of that stabilization process is just doing exactly that, keeping day-to-day operations going. And another big piece of that is discovery. We have to really get a solid handle on where the organization is and where we need to be. And that's a part of discovery. And right now I'm in the process of meeting with every fire company, every station. We're going to meet with every different department within this organization. Right now I've met with 7 of the fire companies out of 27. So I'm not quite a third of the way done. But again, we just got started. So it's a big ask and it's a big effort. But I think when we get that done and we can find out from the people, the only way I know how to do this is to go out and ask the firefighters and the people that work here, where are we? What are we doing well? What areas do we need to improve in? And a few other questions along the way, like what can I do as the interim chief to help us get from here to there where we need to be? We'll put all this into a report that you'll have a chance to see. And the functionality of that is not only will it give us an interim plan and actually an ongoing plan so that the next chief can come in and pick that up and move with it rather than coming into a situation that may appear to them as an out of control mess. We're not going to do that. We'll have a plan in place. We'll be able to make that transition as smooth as we possibly can. It's interesting that we talked a little bit about in the rural board meeting with the other chiefs in the area. Thus far, I've met with every single chief that surrounds us, and even further than that, attended one of the board meetings from the FRFC and Front Range Fire Consortium. And I've met with each of those chief officers that directly surround us, and either had breakfast or lunch, except with one of them. That's on the calendar. So we're moving ahead with that as well too. But I think it's important to do what we're doing to help hear from the folks that actually work here and do the job about where we are and where we need to go. So that's what we're building. I had breakfast with Chief Bergston from Hooter Fire last Friday. And interestingly enough, we did something very similar to this several years ago. The chief of the department there and their ops chief got a vote of no confidence. I was asked to come in and evaluate the organization, get a picture of where they were, and develop a plan for moving forward. I asked Chief Bergston when he came in, did that report that we did help him? And his response was, are you kidding? You had all of the things identified as what we needed to do. So we went to work on the top 3. The next year we started working on our strategic plan, and we rolled the rest of those bullet points into that. So that was an endorsement of what we're doing now here based on something that worked. So that's where we're going. We've also got our eyes on some other things. We've got a strategic plan that needs to be updated. It ends in 2027, but there's pieces in there that we need to address, helping us move forward. And with your permission, we'd like to move forward with some kind of an addendum or a compendium to take us up through 2028, the next 3 years. And a lot of what we've talked about today between the budget would end up being in there as well. So again, we're not going to sit still, we're not sitting on our hands, we're moving the organization forward. That was more than 2 minutes, Paul, but I told you.
Well, but it was a staggering 2 minutes, so we're good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 14 then, review briefing papers and correspondence, and this is.
Yeah, we only have one, and I think it's up there. You can't read that print, but it is a continuance of the ones that we see, month after month, which is, again, our people going out and doing what they do with excellence, and that's serving the public. In fire service, we call that person, that mythical person that's everywhere, Mrs. Smith. I happen to have Mrs. Smith, though, sitting next to me for real. This is the mythical Mrs. Smith. We just covered that slide in that 2 minutes plus that Paul gave me.
This time.
This is another example of what we're talking about relative to not sitting on our hands. We are in a process of moving the organization forward. With those different pieces in there in that bar graph, Andrea in HR put this together to help us stay on track with the number of openings. With Chief Ward leaving, becoming the new chief for Fort Lupton Fire Protection District, it creates a huge gap for us. But I will tell you now, I sent this memo out to you all at 1:15 this afternoon and went out to LFRA at the same time. We did fill that position with Battalion Chief Jason Stark. I don't know, Jason, are you here? Well, I saw him. Would you stand, please? This is Battalion Chief Jason Stark. He will be our new assistant fire chief.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Paul was with us yesterday. We ran essentially what amounted to is a scaled back assessment center with different types of assessment points within that. And Jason excelled in that. And so he was selected for that. Now this will create, in all probability, some openings downstream for us. And that's the purpose of this bar graph right here. Covered this earlier as well too, meeting with the surrounding fire chiefs and other chief officers. I'm meeting with the police chief tomorrow morning. We're just trying to get out there. I've also met with the chief of Thompson Valley EMS. I've got another meeting scheduled with him. We just want to continue to meet with our partners in the area and make sure they understand. And we got an opening here for a fire chief in the future, but we've got somebody in the place until that person gets here. The volunteer discussion was something that was put on the agenda from somewhere in here. I know, Paul, we talked about this at the rural board meeting, but I'm not sure where we want to go with that, whether this is a place or time to do that.
Well, perhaps we can just throw the idea out there. We were trying to figure out how we can create additional volunteerism up the canyon. Are there things we can do, whether it be a stipend, additional training programs for EMS kind of things with a payback, time frame, whatever it might be. So what we're trying to do is just think, because Chief Smith and I talked about that it's a different environment now with volunteers, and if there's anything we can do, if any creative ideas we have to help everybody up the canyon, the staff up the canyon, the people that are volunteering now, it's welcome. So it's being thrown out there. If somebody has a great idea, don't hesitate to let Chief Morowski, Chief Smith, Chief Stark, have those ideas, because we need that. I think that would be a good thing to have. So thanks for the placeholder, Chief.
Yeah, I think, again, to follow up with what Paul's saying, we're not the only organization or even the only organization in fire service had trouble with recruitment and retention of volunteers. It's been something that's hit the fire service really hard over the last 20-25 years. And it's just a difficult situation right now because of and it has been for quite some time, for the requirements that it takes to become even a volunteer firefighter, and ask those people to keep those certifications up and everything else. However, up in the canyon, that might be a great place where we could look at this and actually do some good with this. So this may be a prime example of where this could perhaps work very well. So we'll look at this.
Thanks for the placeholder, Chief. Sure, go ahead.
If people are interested, since now we've had the conversation, it could very well become a public conversation. How would they reach out? What would maybe they don't know anything about it, but they'd like to help. What would they do?
I can take it.
Thank you.
So we have a placeholder on our website that they can ask the information. We do get the occasional emails that come in, and HR watches those. We are doing a recruiting process this year, so there'll be banners that go out, and at some of the stations already in the windows are like poster size items that have a QR code that takes them right to the information.
Okay.
But yeah, it's on our website.
What is the recruitment window?
We were going to start it in June or July. I don't remember the actual timeline.
Okay.
But it's coming up.
I would ask that you come to city council and give a little information about that too, because sometimes we reach different audience. Yeah, when it comes time. Thank you.
Any other questions for? Did you have anything else, Chief?
I think that's it. Well, thank you. Want to run through the rest? Yes,
Okay.
please.
So we had the honor flight last weekend, so we were able to go out. We had 8 or 9 of our partner agencies with us. Windsor helped us with the other half of the flag display for their send off. And then when they came home Monday night, LFRA was out there to welcome them home and help them off of the aircraft and onto the buses. So we had a good turnout. We had several of our folks volunteer Monday night to come out and support a couple of the on-duty crews in that part. So good turnout, good showing from LFRA.
Thank you for doing
Our ladder truck that was involved in the accident last year, parts and pieces of it live on. So this is the pump. Corey from Fleet Maintenance pulled the pump out before the truck went off to scrap wherever it went. The insurance company took it. They said, get everything you want off of it. And Corey took that well to heart. And so we got the pump out of it. We worked with SVI and they're building us a trainer of a pump for our new engineers. So this will end up at the training center. They built the stand, it's on wheels. Parts of the pump is now cut open so they can see the insides of the pump and how it works. They're building a whole pump panel where the controls will be to go on it for us. So great addition from an event that wasn't so great for the organization, but we're still gaining from that.
Whose idea was to do that? That's Fantastic. idea.
Training Lieutenant Gleditch and Corey from Fleet came up with that and then called me to come down to they had an idea to come to Fleet and they wanted to chat. And that's what they presented. I'm like, you get that pump out of there? Oh yeah, I can get the pump out of there, and he had it out of there in a couple of days. So
That's an amazing idea.
That's very cool.
and then January sent me this is another Kids Pack event that our crews assisted with last month.
Okay, call volume for March, a little over 1,000 calls and breakdown, you can see the different call types. This is something I'm gonna keep on the radar for everybody, because we gotta watch this. They're an area that I want us to make sure that we always are paying attention to, because when the commercial service does come, we need to be ready for that day, and I don't want us to be surprised, because it will have an impact on us as an organization for that, or that aircraft rescue firefighting response we have to do. So they are still on target. There's a meeting that started 15 minutes ago, but they're the updates about the runway project. So they're still on target to start June 1st, be done with the primary work early November. There'll be a few more things that they have to do in 2027, but there's still ongoing work about a sticks and bricks tower and some other pieces that will bring commercial service. If the index changes, that will have a big impact for us. I just want to keep it out there.
And if I can add this just into your radar, Chief, we've had both Representative Congressman Bovert and Senator Hickenlooper have both sent notice to us that they are requesting congressional designated spending for a possible tower. So the possibility of it is more realistic than maybe it has been before. And we're waiting on Senator Bennett, who I think has got a request in his out as well. So it may become more reality.
Yeah, and it just the way that the FAA has been behaving with the money that they've been spending is the other trigger point for us. And we've heard these conversations for many years about commercial service coming, and we've seen it come and go. But it's becoming more of a reality when they start putting money into the airport. So we're kind of expecting this is going to be a thing. Maybe not 27, but maybe 28.
Chief, if I could, so with the change of index, does that include, do we need an ARF? I know we talked about that yesterday. If we need another ARF, what's the lead time on one?
Well, we can get a person trained up in we can send them to a class, 40-hour class, they can be trained up in a week. But the problem is with the new index, you have to have minimum of 2 people, but then that goes into the, I guess, ethics or morals of having just 2 people on a standby for 150 passenger aircraft that just landed. It's maybe not the right thing to do, even though that's the minimum standard for the FAA. So there's big pieces that we see coming, like we have a fire station there, but we can't move back in today because airport operations has really taken over that whole building. And it's not in the right spot. So there's this snowball effect of things that we are foreseeing in our future.
Could you cobble it together? I mean, you guys are very creative, but doing a lot with little. So if in the event that you did change the index, and would we be up to speed in time? Would you need another ARF? Do you need another ARF unit? I mean,
yeah, you have to have minimum, if the index changes, minimum of 2 vehicles and a person driving each.
Okay.
That's the minimum.
period.
For us to spool it up, we would want 6 months, because we need to hire people. The staffing that we have right now wouldn't be able to take care of that type of response, because that's typically 7 flights a day, every day. Will it hit that point in the near future? I don't know, but I think we're gonna see something.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Director Thompson, actually, if I could.
You have a question for Director
Yeah,
Thompson?
Director Thompson. Don't we have, isn't there consideration for potential grant monies and/or matches of some kind?
Damn, we were just talking about
Dependent
that.
on having an ARP in place?
Yeah, so
Isn't like Brian's chicken and the egg for
So
this one too?
with the FAA, you could always look at the funding for that. Obviously, the widening is what the funding was trying to acquire this time. They normally will fund them, but to certain capacities. So if we ever start commercial service again, then we have to look at that next year. You could ask for the funding. It may take a couple of years, and you don't have the couple of years, so you could wait while you're waiting, but there's ways around that. The other thing you could do is does become more active on some of the commercial side, then you then can start with the commercial airlines, the landing fees, everything else, you start putting a fire fee or emergency response fee in place too, that you can recoup from each of the passengers that are traveling into the airport, which you see in many cases when you travel. That's why travel is what it is with all the additional costs at the airport. So there are other ways that we can look at it. We're just not quite there yet, but it is geared up to do all those things, because one of the things we've done with the airport is we told the airport, be it's us in Fort Collins that own the airport, is that we want it to be self-sustaining. And so now we're on the path of becoming self-sustaining, looking at all our fees, starting to charge parking for cars that are parked there that we didn't before. It was just the bus companies hauling you down to Denver. We weren't getting paid any fees for that, and they were using up all that parking. So there's things we put into place this year that start us down that path. The next would be recovery of some of those emergency services and so forth. And you normally do that for the commercial service, not the GAs, the general aviation pilots or otherwise. So yeah.
Is there funding that's dependent? Like we won't receive the grant monies unless we have this. So we have to have this before we can apply for additional grant monies for some of the grant monies that would eventually pay for
You
this.
can, you could add it to various grants. I've acquired at different airports, trucks over the years that are related to the type and the volume of service that you have. So there's a couple of things that, this case here, the one-way widening is a kind of a challenge anyhow, because we try to leave half the runway open, and we extended the tower hours, but we close it down after dark because you're only using half the runway. There's all kind of oddities that are going to happen in the next 6 months to make this happen, but still allow for some aircraft to operate at the airport, which creates a higher risk because it's not a standard operating condition.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's where the staffing and everything else comes in, because we're creating a riskier scenario, but we're trying to keep people somewhat happy with what's going on.
So you're saying it takes about 6 months to stand this up. We're saying it's about 6 months before we are, pretty far down the line for widening.
Yeah, we have people in play today. We have approximately 5 people on each shift that are certified at that level. The concern is if it gets busier, and then we need to be out there all the time.
Gotcha.
And we're gonna have to put a new station in, and so we've been in conversations with the airport director. He understands what the potential is there, what the needs are gonna be, because we will be required for them to get commercial service. So we can say we have it until the pressure's there. Now we gotta show the staff.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Significant fire that we had on April 6th that was on West Eisenhower behind Jamoka Joe's. And then the other one I squeezed in from last night, we had a fire that was southwest Loveland, basically Kenner Road 18 and Kenner Road 23E. Another significant fire.
Any questions?
And I do have the overtime rover thing. We can save that for our special meeting.
Perfect. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Moving on, consider approval of a request for quotation RFQ for the retention of an executive search firm. Andrea's, you gonna help us with this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deeper, did you want to?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, based on your direction last month, I think, we put together an RFQ with some of the recommendations that you stated as well. The deadline, if you were to approve it, we would start sending it to firms tomorrow with a deadline of May 14th. And that way we could bring it back to you next month to actually select. Proposal is for you to consider that. If there are any changes to it, any recommendations, then we just need to know that.
Is it safe to say if the qualifications are in the RFQ, those are standard? I mean, you guys know this business better than me, so everything in there is standard for the position.
Yep.
Okay.
Randy. Director Sampson had some suggestions, and so we added those as well.
Did you have a comment then?
I did not.
Okay.
I can make a motion if needed.
Any other discussions on? That would be wonderful.
All right, I move that we approve the request for quotation for retention of an executive search firm as presented by our HR.
You can have it.
That would be, Mayor McFall, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you very much, Andrea, for doing this. Okay, consider designation of roles for the fire chief search committee. Chief Morosky, I'll let you have this if you could.
Yeah, we just identified, not necessarily who in there, but this is what we are proposing that we would have in this search committee here. So those are just some of the positions that we're looking at as we look down the road to, help get our fire chief selected and on the payroll here in the future. This is a key component of that to nail down this chief search committee.
Are you prepared, or is it appropriate now to discuss who you might want on that committee? Not individual names, but whether it be public.
Well, they are here.
I'm missing it somewhere.
You know, we've got two board members, obviously the fire chief here. We're looking at a captain or lieutenant. We want some representation from our local union. IAFF 3566, either an engineer or a firefighter. At least one person from human relations. From we have so many acronyms here. The Fire Rescue Advisory Commission, FRAC, either a current or a past member from there representing the city. And then some member of the ELT on that. So that's really the essence of this committee.
Okay, but you'll identify those individuals
we will.
as we get further down.
We're just asking for approval of this model.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
If I can, a couple questions. So I want to understand the search committee or is this the only committee? Or do we have others? Do we have like a citizens committee? Do we have like an outreach program as part of it? Do we have like our partner committee? Do we bring in chiefs from their surrounding and Thompson Valley and get them on a board to interview and be part of that process, or is this just the committee?
That will come with.
Okay.
This
So-
is just to help us review
That's-
RFPs, go through the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that process is actually after
Yeah.
candidates have been found and you've gotten down to the final three or whatever it may be.
Yes.
If I can speak a little bit to that, because I think I can provide a high level that'll put this
Please.
into a context. At a future meetings, these requirements all fall under the requirements of the Colorado Open Meetings Law for an executive chief officer search process. So at a future meeting, we will bring to the board a comprehensive resolution that does several things. One is it establishes who's on the search committee, and those are gonna be the people that are kind of routing the process along, okay? Another is it will approve the job description. Another is it will approve the job announcement. And the last thing it will do is it will set forth a hiring process and timeline. And in that process and timeline, that's where you will put in, first you submit your applications, and then we eliminate everybody who didn't meet minimum qualifications, and then we have a candidate list, and then we're going to have a meeting with the candidates in the area fire chiefs, and then we're going to have a public meeting, and you'll get to put in whatever other process you want in terms of meeting with employees, partner stakeholders, or community members. And at various points through this process, candidates will either advance to the next stage or they won't, until eventually you get to a finalist list. So all of that will be spelled out, and the board will get the opportunity to decide all of the steps that it wants in the process. It's not quite there yet. So, and we'll want to wait until you get your executive search firm on board. Because what happened the last time we went through this process is the board went through a lot of effort to come up with a timeline. And then we brought the search firm on board and they said, we don't do it that way. And we had to start all over. So we're gonna want to make sure we get them on board so that they can be part of that conversation.
Any other questions?
The only one I have is that the number chief that's in here is an even number, and I hate boards that are even numbers.
Mhm. It's a good
So
point.
looking to see if we can whittle down to an odd number or move up to an odd number.
I have a suggestion for that, if you'd like.
Please.
If you'd be willing to entertain, LFRA, so what I'd like to see is perhaps elected officer of the rural district, which could also satisfy LFRA board member, but if it does not, then that could be separate. And then same would go for city manager or city manager designee, which could also satisfy LFRA board member, but if not, then it could be a separate individual. That, either one of those could put us at 9.
Okay, so you're not looking for 2, because that puts us to 10.
Correct.
Just want to make sure.
Yes, yes.
So long as the city representative, rural representative, and authority representative are not all 3 members of the authority.
Correct,
So,
it has to be,
yes.
yes, so if we, for example, if Paul was on and Jim was on, then we would have to find either an elected rural officer or city manager designee, so I guess we'd have to satisfy one of those, but. Oh no, you would be the elected rural officer, so we would just have Jim satisfy that, yeah, so it would work.
I'd sooner whittle it down. I think a smaller board makes it more efficient, but I can go up to.
We have a lot of interested parties.
I agree.
Andrea, Chief, did you capture that?
Did.
Were there any other concerns? None? Okay. Moving on, item 17, consider approval of the fire chief job description and hiring pay range. I've got a question, and this is for you, please, Andrea. On the pay range, do we want to get our RFQ in and then those results in and then discuss that with those people? Is it, I don't understand your business. Is it a chicken and egg thing? We're back to what, Brian mentioned earlier. So is there a better way to do this, or is that the way to do it?
Our process has been with our fire chief to look at all of our comparable organizations and come up with a range on that, which I did provide to the fire chief. And so this range is the 30th to the 70th percentile.
Okay.
So if there's somebody with lesser experience, it is just a suggested range.
Andrew, it's comparable, or are we talking county comparable, Northern Colorado comparable?
We have our specific departments that we compare to. So we have Mountain View, Cooter, Brighton, Windsor, South Adams, out of town.
That works. So just, there you go.
It's our standard.
Comparable size.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
and a little more.
More or less. That'll work. Thank you.
And just a
Page 1 of 7, 6 of 7, and 7 of 7. Looks like we inserted in different fonts, but then there's a lot of question marks and inserts and everything.
They're cute too. I think it's something happened with the PDF.
Yeah.
Because I went back to my Word documents. and
So I did this.
Yes.
With that corrected, I can approve it.
So
Just,
nobody
I
else
just.
noticed that.
No, but he will not sleep at night because he has.
Well, I was having a rough time with it. I was panicking. Yes. Yes, so I will fix that. Yes.
Okay, I figured, but I just wanted to point it out. We approve it as is.
that was it, Jim?
Yeah, that's good.
Ms. Sampson,
Would
do
you like,
you have anything else?
would you like a motion? No.
Good, okay. Yes, motion would be great.
I move, this is the designation rules, or is this the hiring hearing? Do we have a hiring hearing? Yes. I move that we approve the fire chief job description with hiring pay range.
Second, please.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Did we pass 16 without objection? Is that when we did that one? Or do we need a formal motion?
You know what? I didn't do that. You're right.
You want a formal motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve the designation of roles for the fire chief search committee with the addition of the ancillary positions, potential ancillary positions.
In which you captured.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for catching that. Ms. Sampson, I appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Item 18, receive a notice from the Loveland Firefighters, IAFF Local 3566 of an intent to pursue a collective bargaining ballot initiative pursuant to the 2013 Colorado Senate Bill 25 SB 25. Who has got this one?
I'll lead in with this, Paul, and we received a request from the International Association of Firefighters, Local 3566 from LFRA, that their intent was to look towards a collective bargaining agreement. And the first step in this for them is the validation of the signatures for folks here within LFRA. I believe we may have some representatives from 3566. Let me look and see. Do we have some folks here? They want to come forward and speak to this issue from your perspective, and then anything we can do to help you with this.
Oh, yeah, I think Willard should be on here, and he actually has a small presentation for it.
President Craig Willard is not here in Colorado right now. We're hoping to get him in via Zoom or something here.
There he is.
Magic.
Magic of Zoom.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, Christie.
Present this to you. Here's a packet of signatures. We got 94%. So we got
Thank you.
it's all, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello from Michigan. So, yes,
President.
can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good, okay. So, yes, we addressed Chief Moralski to find out what the best avenue was to address you, and he suggested that we get on the agenda to talk to you. So, let me start by saying that my name is Craig Willard. I'm the president of Local 3566, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. One of the first things I want to say is an important clarification that under the Senate Bill 25 collective bargaining framework, firefighters do not strike, they do not conduct walkouts, and they do not engage in work slowdowns. That is not who we are, and it is not a part of this process. In exchange, these agreements typically rely on binding arbitration and structured dispute resolution. That means disagreements are resolved professionally, lawfully, and without any disruption to emergency services. Public safety is never compromised. So with that being said, I'll move into the legal part of this. So on behalf of the eligible members of IAFF Local 3566 and the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority, this letter serves as formal notice of our intent to pursue a ballot initiative under the provisions of Senate Bill 25 to establish a collective bargaining process for the firefighters of Loveland Fire Rescue Authority. In accordance with the statutory framework, IAFF Local 3566 has completed the collection of signatures from eligible members within the defined bargaining unit. A total of 97 signatures from 103 eligible firefighters, representing 94% of eligible personnel, have been obtained in support of this initiative. These signatures are attached here too. You just received those for your review and certification. Given the overwhelming support demonstrated by the membership, we respectfully request that the LFRA board complete verification and certification of the submitted signatures within 5 business days of receipt of this notice. Upon completion of this certification, we request written confirmation that the threshold requirements have been met and that the process may proceed. IAFF Local 3566 remains committed to a professional, transparent, and collaborative process as this matter advances. Our intent is to ensure that firefighters have a formal, structured mechanism to engage in good faith discussions, primarily regarding health, safety, benefits, and working conditions, consistent with the protections afforded under Colorado law. We appreciate your attention to this matter and look forward to your response. Any questions on that part?
Thank you, President. Or do we have any questions? Very straightforward. I have a quick question. So the certification of the signatures, is that with an LFRA? Is that
We can certainly assist the board with that because we know the people that are on those lists. We can assist.
I'm not concerned. I'm just saying, is that something that's a checkbox, right? Greg, that has to be done, the certification?
Yeah, so you have to review all the signatures just to make sure that the people that signed it actually work here and are in good standing, so to speak.
Okay.
You can probably validate them.
Thank you, Ken. I'll turn this over to Chief Morowski, and then I'm assuming, Christie, we file this where it needs to be filed. What do we do with this?
Do we have to do a response on this?
I would, before the board takes any action on this matter, certainly you can have any conversation you'd like to, but I've not had the opportunity to talk with the board about the request or about Senate Bill 25 at all. So the next item on the agenda is an executive session to receive advice of legal counsel regarding Senate Bill 25 and the collective bargaining process. So I would request that the board not take action at this time until we have an opportunity to have that conversation in executive session.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have any questions for the representatives here or for President Willard? Thanks. Appreciate your time on this.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. And I've got time to spend if you guys have any other questions after your executive session. I've got lots of things I can say.
That would be appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
If you could hang on, that would be appreciated. Yeah.
Well,
Would
there's
you-
potential that we may.
Would you-
Right.
Post
'Cause-
executive session.
I'm sorry,
Would you
did
like
hear-
me?
I'm sorry, did you hear Director Sampson?
I'm sorry, no.
Oh, I was saying, yes, we all agreed that we would like if you could stay on for questions after our executive session, that'd be great. And also there is potential for us to take action following the executive session as well. So if you're available to stay on, that we'd appreciate that.
Okay. I also have a part 2 that would probably explain a lot of what you guys need to hear or to talk about. If you guys want to hear that now.
If he's willing to chat now, it'd be great to have that information going into the executive
Yes,
session.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, please.
Okay. So it's pretty formal, but why now? So over the past year, it's become clear that we are experiencing structural challenges that need to be addressed. We've seen organizational instability, shifts in leadership and direction, ongoing concerns related to compensation and competitiveness. These are not short-term issues, they are long-term risks if left unaddressed. The impact of this is not theoretical, it's already affecting our workforce. We are seeing firefighters that can't afford to buy a house. Our firefighters actually qualify, I found this interesting, our firefighters actually qualify for Habitat for Humanity houses. And as you've been talking earlier in the meeting, we're trying to address that, but it's getting worse every year. We're having increasing difficulty retaining experienced and newer personnel. And the gaps between LFRA and comparable departments are growing. When departments fall behind, they don't just lose positions, they lose experience, training, and institutional knowledge. And that ultimately affects the level of service provided to the community. So what this process actually does, or it does not impose a contract, it does not bypass the board, and it does not remove public input. What it does is allow the voters to decide whether firefighters should have a formal, structured process to address wages, hours, working conditions, safety, and health. If approved, it creates a professional framework for good faith negotiations, supported by dispute resolution mechanisms like arbitration as needed. So why this approach? Across Colorado, many high-performing fire departments operate within structured labor management systems. These systems provide predictability in budgeting, stability through leadership transitions, clear expectations on both sides, and reduce conflict over time. This is not new or untested. It is a proven model. So the level of support, we had 94% of eligible personnel. That's not just union members, that's all people that are eligible. And this reflects a strong consensus across the workforce, unified desire for structure and stability, and a clear belief that this is the right path forward. That level of alignment is rare. So what we are asking for you, just acknowledge the receipt of the petition, verify, certify the signatures, allow the process outlined in the statute to move forward. And this is not, for you guys, this is not about taking a position for or against. This is about ensuring the process is carried out transparently and in accordance with the law. So at its core, this effort is about one thing, building a stable, sustainable, and high-performing fire department for the future. This process strengthens the organization while ensuring that emergency services remain uninterrupted, disputes are resolved professionally, and the community continues to receive the level of service it expects and deserves. We are committed to working collaboratively through this process and moving forward in a way that benefits both the organization and the community. This is not about conflict. It is about building a system that works no matter who is sitting at the table or wearing the badge 5 or 10 years from now. We really want to be allies with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, that being said, I'll let you do your legal magic.
I would ask the board for a motion to go into executive session pursuant to C.R.S. 246402 to receive advice of legal counsel regarding Senate 25 and the collective bargaining process.
Without objection.
Judge, second.
For that. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Let me give a second though.
Thank you.
Are we moving location or are we gonna ask the public to step out for the time being?
Let's go down to fire.
That'd be good. Before we step out of the room, I will certify for the record that the executive session will constitute privileged attorney-client communications and will not be recorded.
Mr. Chair.
Christie, excuse me, do we still have President Willard on?
Yeah.
There's Emily.
Sorry about that, everyone. You're out.
We're out, we didn't.
You're out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got everybody back. Is Andrea Smith gone?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're back in regular session. Thank you for waiting. You're in the audience. We had a good discussion, President Willard, to discussing your the option that you threw on the table as far as collective bargaining. And I'd like to open it up for discussion with the board on how they feel about that. So whoever would like to go first.
I have some things that.
Go ahead.
So, I personally am a big supporter and advocate of collective bargaining. I think this is an exciting next step for our staff, for our firefighters, for our board. And I think it would be a good idea, beneficial, and a good way for us to build like a kind of rebuild positively with our LFRA staff to kind of move this forward as soon as possible. So I guess, I would like us to start this process.
Any more discussion
Now.
from any other board member?
Hey, I'll say this, and it's new to me. It took me by surprise. I knew there was a union. I assumed with the union, there's already bargaining, so.
Yeah.
It took me, so it's willing to listen just to.
The natural next step.
Jim, any comments?
Nothing to add. I think that's the challenge. If we want to go there and they desire to have that as a workforce, let's just go there. Not delay it, get there. So I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Okay, that being said, is there a motion moving forward?
Yeah, Emily, do we need a motion to move forward with this, or do we need to ask?
So I think the question is, there are a couple of ways to move forward with the election. From my perspective is legal. One is to seek the citizen election, which would take several months, and I'm not exactly sure when it would go on the ballot because it's not clear how to do that for an authority. The other option is just to get started with collective bargaining now. Put together a collective bargaining team with the union and management and get started as soon as both teams are in place. So I guess the question for the board is, would anybody like to make a motion?
We do need a motion.
Make a motion to pursue collective bargaining with the union, assuming that the union agrees to begin that process now as well, because I know Craig will need to go back to his membership with that proposal.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Go right ahead.
I move that we would accept, and you know what, hang on a second, before I make a motion, President Willard, your local 3566. Okay. I move, correct? Okay.
I'm here,
I move-
yep.
Okay, thank you. I move that we accept, local 3566 offer to, I move that we pursue collective bargaining with local 3566, and that we would begin that process now, pursuant to, not pursuant,
Contingent on.
contingent, thank you, contingent on, the response from local 3566.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Yep. So Craig, we'll need you to chat with your membership and see if that's acceptable to them, if they want to get started, and then you can let Chief Morawski know, or I don't know if the union has counsel. If you do, if they can reach out to me as well. So it's however you want to manage that process.
Okay, yes, we do have counsel. They were on earlier, but they had to leave. So yes, I will take that to the membership. I don't think that that's going to change our thoughts on the ballot measure, but yes, I think that we would probably be, I'm speaking tongue in cheek here, agreeable to starting the process now.
Well, let us know once you've had a chance to talk with them.
I will do that. Thank you very much. As far as the signatures go, is there an expected timeline for those?
Yeah, so I'm not aware that there's a statutory requirement to certify it, so I'm not sure if there is a specific timeline for that or not, but I imagine it will not take Chief Morowski very long to look at that list and verify that the names signed are actual employees of LFRA. So I would think a couple days,
Yes,
you can tell him. that
we
the
could have
list-
this
Yeah.
done really quickly.
So I'm sure Chief Morowski
Awesome.
can get on that.
Appreciate that very much. And I appreciate you coming forward and collaboratively like this.
Any other comments from the board?
No.
Thanks, President Willard. Appreciate your help with this.
Thank you. Good job on your efforts.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on. That was 23. We did item 23. This will be our last meeting with Chief Ward. Right? Am I right?
Correct.
That's right.
It's almost heartbroken.
I know, I can tell.
Are we doing a special meeting in a couple weeks?
Well, that's something.
We can do it before you last.
Oh, my God. Thanks.
I think I'm good.
Thanks for bringing us down. But thank you for 31 years of dedication to this
Yeah.
organization and the city of Loveland.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate that. You've been a pillar. Chief Morowski, anything to add to that?
So, sir,
Great. With that being said, I would take a motion to adjourn the meeting. So, all right, you're
Second.
adjourned. Molly, I need you to sign some documents for you.
You need to sign documents for me?
Yes.
you could have played that out.
What do I need?
Actually, that'd be great.
I still think
No,
we should have a
that's
meeting.
for Chris Coleman, I was wondering.
Okay, I thought you